My sister once looked me straight in the eye and said, "You'll always be family." A week later, she signed her name on the papers that took everything from me, my house, my fiancé, and smiled while doing it. They drained my bank accounts, sold my car, and threw a lavish party in my home, all without me. But what still scorches my memory isn't just the betrayal. It's how they clinked wine glasses over it, like destroying my life was something to toast to. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just went quiet and started gathering evidence because the silence was going to build the kind of revenge no one saw coming. That Sunday morning, the smell of rosemary and cream filled the kitchen as the casserole bubbled in the oven. I wore my old blue apron, the one with a tiny pocket my niece used to tuck Cheerios into when she was little. For once, the house was still my house. The one I bought after a decade of grinding through double shifts, sacrificing weekends and every vacation to make it mine. I'd painted the porch myself just last spring, fixed the pipes in winter with nothing but a flashlight, and YouTube tutorials. I invited my sister Callista and my fiancé Jared over for brunch, just a simple family gathering. I set the table with care, hiding how much it mattered to me that everything matched. Then she arrived, her voice too loud, eyes scanning the space, like a realtor on a walkthrough. "This house is perfect for entertaining," she said, ignoring the framed print of Grandma's handwriting hanging above the fireplace. Jared followed, distant, barely meeting my eyes, scrolling on his phone. He wasn't usually that cold. Callista began offering unsolicited redesign ideas, talking about knocking out walls, suggesting hardwood floors like she already owned the place. "It's not a flip," I said with a forced smile, trying to mask the unease twisting in my gut. Jared said little, smirking at his screen, detached. When they left, I stood at the sink, rinsing clean dishes with trembling hands, Callista's voice echoing in my mind. "Is your name still on the deed?" She'd laughed when she asked, but Jared had added, "We sorted the paperwork, babe. It's just easier under one name, for taxes." I couldn't recall signing anything, but I'd been swamped planning our wedding, working overtime, running errands for both of us. Maybe I had overlooked something. That night, unable to sleep, I stayed at my friend Cynthia's place in Davis, just for the night. I left Jared a note, told him I needed air. I didn't mention the deed. The next day, when I returned, my neighbor Mrs. Elkins clutched her Pomeranian tighter when she asked, "Oh, you're still here?" Confused, I asked what she meant. "Your sister and that man threw a big party yesterday. Looked like a farewell thing." My heart sank. I entered my home and nothing felt like mine anymore. It smelled like perfume I never wore, wine I didn't drink. My grandmother's Afghan was gone, cushions rearranged, a photo of Dad and me, at Yosemite missing. Then I saw it, a plastic cup with Callista's housewarming bash scrawled in silver marker. I opened the fridge. Half the casserole was eaten, my anniversary cider gone. I checked the guest room. Someone had slept in the bed, but my slippers were gone. Jared's shoes weren't where he left them. The house felt like a shared memory slowly being erased. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I locked myself in the bathroom, sat on the cold tile, and whispered, "I'm still here. This is still mine, for now." I walked into the garage expecting chaos, but instead found emptiness. My vintage Schwinn bike? Gone. The red filing cabinet I'd owned since I moved in vanished. That cabinet held everything. Tax forms, insurance records, my car title, house deed, every critical document. I ran to my home office. It looked normal until I opened my files. My documents had been tampered with. Tabs bent, labels mismatched, folders shoved back out of order. But Jared's side? Untouched. His lease, his receipts, even his passport sat untouched in his locked drawer. My section, wiped clean. Panic rising, I texted him. "Where's the red cabinet? Why are my documents gone?" No reply. I called, straight to voicemail. Shaking, I Googled the Sacramento County Title Office and called. I gave the address. The woman paused. "That property was refinanced 3 months ago under a new agreement," she said. My breath caught. "I never signed anything." She continued, It's under a business entity, Calart Holdings. Primary, Jared Ellis. Secondary, Callista Day. My voice barely escaped. That's my sister. She paused again. I'm afraid your name is not on the current deed. I hung up and stared at the wall, cold creeping through my bones. 3 months ago, right when Jared had said he'd handle some paperwork so I could focus on work, I never gave it a second thought. He'd always said legal stuff gave me hives. So I grabbed the iMac on our shared desk, logged into his account. Same old password he never bothered changing. At first, it all looked innocent. Wedding spreadsheets, photos from a friend's bachelor party, design files from his latest half-baked side hustle. But then I saw it, a folder tucked away like a dirty secret. Wedding budget. Final. Inside, buried beneath tax docs and boring invoices, was a lone PDF titled Auto Refi Contract Row. I clicked. A scanned loan document appeared, branded with our bank's letterhead, my name, and a signature at the bottom. Mine. Except it wasn't. The loops, the tail of the D, they were off. Too smooth, too perfect. It looked like someone had traced me. My stomach dropped as I scrolled down. There, in the fine print, it hit me like a punch. Vehicle listed. As collateral, 2018 Subaru Outback. VIN ending in 4872. My car. The last thing that felt like it still belonged to me. Panic surged. I darted to the window. Driveway empty. Ripped open the door, raced out onto the street. Gone. Jared had driven me back from Cynthia's that morning. My car should have been right there. But it wasn't. Inside, the house felt eerily still, like the air had turned to lead. I stood, motionless in the middle of the living room, the same spot where we'd once fantasized about kids, home makeovers, forever. Now it felt staged, plastic, like someone had rewritten the script without me. I collapsed to the floor, not crying, breaking. This wasn't betrayal soaked in rage. It was betrayal executed with surgical precision. Not just one person, two, my fiancé, my sister, together. It wasn't just stuff they took. They'd erased me. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Callista. 4 words, can we talk soon? I stared at them like they were glowing in flames. I almost replied. Almost. But instead, I set the phone down. The silence around me no longer empty. It pressed in. My mind flung me backward, to 3 months ago. That rooftop brunch. The Sunday before her wedding. Sacramento was breezy. Sky, sapphire blue, pastel dresses fluttering. Callista had insisted on a French garden party. I'd worn a lavender wrap dress she picked. I thought it was about family, celebration, love. Maybe it was a farewell tour. That day, I handed the caterer a check from my personal account. Callista didn't even thank me, just waved and tugged Jared toward the mimosa bar. They looked radiant. He wore that smug, crowd-pleasing smile. She was in her element, laughing, adored. I was her only sister, yet I felt like a set piece. Then, she walked over, hugged me, smelled like gardenias and something metallic, whispered, "I'm so glad you're part of the family now." I smiled. Of course I did. I'd waited my whole life to feel accepted. But now, standing in my kitchen, I wondered if that hug had been a sleight of hand. Goodbye, you just don't know it yet. I bolted, needed air, parked outside the co-op, didn't go in, just stared through the windshield, hoping the rain would wash the betrayal off. My phone rang. Jared. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the buzz. Voicemail received. I hesitated, played it. His voice was tight, shaking beneath fake calm. Ro, it's not what you think. Please. It's complicated. Can we talk just once? Then another voice. Light, familiar, unmistakable. Tell her that part later. Callista, with him. Right then. Not across town. Not in separate lives. Together. My throat burned. Played it again. Slower. It wasn't just the house, or the car, or the fake contract. It was me. They'd turned me into a target, smiled at me while rewriting my life without me in it. I didn't cry. Not this time. I typed a single message. You two deserve each other, but not what you took from me. Sent. Back home, I didn't take off my coat. Walked to the den, yanked open the desk drawer, found the notebook I hadn't touched in months. Dusted it off. This wasn't a journal anymore, it was evidence. I scribbled fast. Date. Last time I saw the deed, 3 months ago. Bridal brunch. Final catering check, $6,020. Paid by me. Refinance filing, 3 days later. Forged signature. Unauthorized contract. Collateral, my car. Company, Collart Holdings. Registered. To Callista. Shared files on our iMac. I flipped the page. Jared's business license, suspended. No income. Household bills, paid from my accounts. Wedding planning, joint, contracts, in his name. This wasn't heartbreak. It was revelation. They didn't stumble into betrayal. They built it, quietly, confidently. Because they knew. I would never suspect them. I would always believe in family. I opened the hall closet, pulled out a dusty old wooden box. Inside, a USB marked Taxes 2018-2021. Jared's digital breadcrumbs. I used to keep everything organized. Turns out I'd archived their crime. Scene. And then, Callista showed up. Standing at my front door like this was just another Sunday. Perfect hair, flawless makeup, holding a pastry box from Monique's, velvet ribbon and all. Her hand hovered to knock again. I opened the door. Just as she whispered, I brought cake. No apology, no remorse, just sugar. We sat at Rosewood Cafe, the same booth we once adored before it became a wedding war room. She slid the box across the table, eyes avoiding mine. I thought we should talk, clear the air. I didn't. Touch it. Didn't flinch. You should have texted sooner, I said flatly. Before I heard your voice in the background. Her face tensed. She turned toward the window. I didn't know what Jared was doing. He told me you were moving, leaving the city, that you didn't want the house anymore. I raised an eyebrow. And that made sense to you? Her lips tightened. He said you needed a fresh start. I believed him. I let the silence stretch between us like a drawn bow. She sipped her lavender latte, unshaken. You're still family, she added, like it was some kind of gift. I never stopped seeing you that way. I leaned forward. You saw me enough to help him take the house out of my name. Blink. There it was. A crack. I thought it was for the best. For whom? No answer. The waitress dropped off more coffee. I stared at the pastries. Almond tarts, lemon chiffon. Things I used to love, before I tasted betrayal. Callista reached for her phone, likely checking the time, or the nearest exit. I leaned in, voice sharp as glass. You don't get to rewrite the story now, Callista. Not after what you did. She blinked, wide-eyed, like she'd stepped onto a stage mid-scene and forgotten the script. I looked her straight in the eye. Jared's new condo, the one he's building. I never mentioned that to you. Her expression froze, just for a moment, but it was enough. He told me, I said. She opened her mouth to deny it, but I shook my head. You only know because you handled the title transfer. You moved it all into his LLC. Her fingers gripped her mug tighter, and she didn't even try to deny it. Didn't bother pretending. Just then, the waitress came by, oblivious. Everything okay here? Callista flashed her perfect, blinding smile. Yes, thank you. When we were alone again, I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila folder, but I didn't slide it across the table just yet. I waited until she reached for another pastry like she always did when she wanted to stall. Then I placed it in front of her. Inside, notarized copies of the quitclaim deed, dated the day before her bridal brunch. My signature, forged, Jared's name, front and center. Her hand froze mid-air. This is fraud, I said, my voice level, steady. And I'm filing. Her complexion paled. Not dramatically, but just enough that the mask slipped. She glanced around, hissing, Rowena, not here. Like she suddenly cared who was watching. Oh, now it matters? I replied, keeping my tone soft but sharp. For once, her composure cracked. She stood. Too fast. Her chair screeched against the tile floor, drawing attention. "Thanks for the coffee," I said, just above a whisper. She didn't respond, just grabbed her designer bag and walked out, heels clacking across the marble like she was marching to a boardroom she didn't belong in. I stayed. I finished my coffee. Then I opened my email and pulled up the draft I'd written in the dark 2 nights before. Subject: property theft and fraudulent transfer. Body: please find attached documents for preliminary review. I would like to proceed with legal action immediately. I hit send. The foam settled in my cup like a closing curtain. Callista always believed appearances could save her, that the right dress, the right smile, could cover any sin. But truth doesn't need frosting. Later that day, the envelope hit Jared's desk like a judge's gavel. His coworkers were halfway through their lunch when she walked in, his former assistant, the one he fired without warning 2 months ago. Gray suit, hair pinned back, face unreadable. "You've been served," she said, placing the papers in front of him. Silence fell like dust. Meanwhile, I stood in the kitchen of my rental apartment, a place that smelled like paint and detergent, the kind of space people pass through, not live in. My lawyer called minutes later. "We found something," he said. "You might want to sit down." I sank onto the bar stool, my stomach a tight knot. "There's a revised will, your grandfather's. It names you as sole inheritor of the house, but with a stipulation. You had to be present during the signing." "I was," I whispered. He made me tea. I sat right beside him. My lawyer sighed. "It was never filed. Your mother said she'd take care of it." Of course she had. My chest ached. That will would have changed everything. Maybe that's why it never reached the clerk's desk. "You think she forgot?" he asked gently. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. That night, I lay on the rental's guest bed, the mattress thin, my mind louder than the silence. I scrolled through my phone for a distraction. I hadn't checked social media in days. I wasn't ready to see their faces. But curiosity is cruel. The first video was a rooftop party, string lights glowing, fake laughter echoing. Jared raised a glass. Callista pressed into his side, flawless as always, champagne coupe dangling from her fingers like a prop. "To fresh starts," she laughed, "and to knowing when to let go." Laughter. Glasses clinked. And in the background, blurred but undeniable, was my old car, cherry red fender, dent from that road trip to Monterey, parked behind them in the valet line. That car wasn't mine anymore. They'd even changed the name on the registration. I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles ached. Then I set it down, grabbed my keys, and left. No bag. No plan. I drove past. Midnight with the windows down, the wind loud in my ears as I left Sacramento and climbed into the hills. I needed space, a place untouched. I ended up outside my childhood home. The porch light was on, my mother's light was always on. But I didn't ring the bell. I slipped around back, under the sagging eaves, through the screen door that still jammed. My old room hadn't changed. Vanilla, cedar, dust. My books still lined the shelf. The quilt was folded neatly at the foot of the bed. I sank to the floor, knees tucked in, and let the silence wrap around me. When dawn crept in, I stood and opened the closet. Behind forgotten jackets and dusty boots, I found it, a shoebox. I pulled it out slowly, like some part of me already knew. On top, a Polaroid. Me, Callista, Jared, arms looped, smiles wide, in front of the fireplace. Back when I thought they were mine. I held it for a long time. Then I tore it clean in half, not in rage, but as a declaration. This was the end. That afternoon, I drove back to the rental, changed clothes, made tea. Then I opened my laptop and created a folder. I named it Reclaiming Everything. One by one, I began uploading mortgage records, contract backups, screenshots, emails, every document I had ever organized for Jared. He never thought I'd keep them. He underestimated me. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to build. By Monday morning, my hands were steady. They thought I was hiding, grieving, drowning in cheap wine and sad songs. But I wasn't broken. I was arming myself. At 8:03 a.m., I sat across from Carol, a senior manager at our old bank. She slid a folder across the table like it contained a confession. "You're not going to like this," she said. I opened it. A receipt. Tiffany & Co. Platinum setting. Round cut diamond. Over $6,000. Paid from our joint account. 3 weeks before our engagement. Digitally signed. With my name. But it wasn't my signature. "Who was it shipped to?" I asked. Carol hesitated. "Callista Day," she said quietly. I stared until the numbers blurred. Jared had proposed with a placeholder ring, while the real one, the ring meant for me, sparkled on my sister's hand. "Want a copy?" she asked. "No," I said, folding it neatly. "I want it to be Exhibit A." That afternoon, I met Damon, my real estate attorney, at the county title office. We reviewed records on a massive screen. There it was. My house, sold to an LLC named Prairie Cove Holdings. "Shell company," Damon muttered. "No phone, no website, no trace." But I leaned in, narrowing my eyes. "Brinley & Co. That's Callista's friend's brokerage." "She was in on it," he said grimly. The house had already been renovated. New fixtures, new backsplash, glossy photos, a virtual tour with staged furniture. But I saw it. The hardwood I'd chosen, the patched drywall my dad fixed, the corner where my grandmother's embroidery had hung. Gone. The money trail led straight to an offshore account under Jared's name, opened 2 days before he proposed. "Want to go public yet?" Damon asked. "Not yet," I said, "but they need to know I'm watching." That Friday night, I dressed in black, a jumpsuit like armor. Matte lipstick, no glitter, no smile. Callista was throwing herself another pre-engagement party downtown. I didn't RSVP. I just walked in. The bartender blinked. "Water, please," I said. Jared was mid-conversation when he saw me. He froze, words caught in his throat, glass tipping slightly in his hand. I strode straight up to him, close enough to catch a whiff of the citrus cologne I had once chosen for him, and murmured, "Lovely. Venue." I leaned in just enough. "Would be a shame if the IRS dropped by asking about those quiet wire transfers you never declared." Before he could even part his lips, I slipped a folded napkin into his breast pocket, my handwriting. Elegant and unmistakable. I know everything. Sleep well. Then I turned and walked out without waiting for the color to drain from his face. By Saturday morning, I was at my kitchen table, untouched oatmeal congealing beside me, my legal team gathered. No frills, just thick folders, dark roast coffee, and the kind of truth you can't redact. Elise, a paralegal with steel in her voice, and an accent that could slice through lies, looked up from her notes and asked, "You ready to go nuclear?" I met her gaze with unshaking resolve. "I've been quiet long enough." That night, the ballroom glimmered beneath chandeliers dripping in gold, each crystal reflecting secrets and champagne laughter. I arrived just in time to catch her voice. Echoing across the room, Callista at the mic, smiling like she was hosting a game show. She still came, even after trying to ruin our engagement with lies. My heels clacked once on the marble floor, and I froze. Callista, poised like a villain mid-monologue, gestured toward me with faux affection. "My sister's here," she repeated, pretending this was some heartfelt reunion and not a public ambush. Gasps rippled like icy water across the room. Jared, standing behind her, took the mic and added insult to betrayal. "She's obsessed. Can't move on. It's sad, really." I stood still, rage and humiliation locking my limbs. Then came the final blow. Callista's announcement, hand on stomach, voice syrupy sweet. "We weren't going to say anything yet, but I'm pregnant." The room erupted. Cheers, cameras, corks popping. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I walked. Because something had shifted inside me. Not sorrow, but strategy. Outside, down the marble steps, I opened my phone. I had recorded every word. And somewhere in that smug performance, Callista slipped. "Make the script surprise more exciting," she said. Script. I replayed it twice. Then I sent the file to 2 people. First, my attorney. Subject line, timeline discrepancy, probable fraud. Second, Uncle Gene, the family trustee who once told me I was the only one who didn't perform for his favor. I added a note. Play. This before signing anything. The drive home was silent, a storm behind my ribs. I didn't go inside. I opened the trunk and pulled out an old shoebox from my childhood closet, the church heels I wore when I gave my first speech, and the clutch from Mom's retirement gala. Years ago, Callista accidentally ruined my speech, then replaced it with her own dazzling toast. Mom had beamed, never knowing it was stolen. But this time, I was prepared. At the lawyer's office the next morning, I was the first to arrive. I took my place at the head of the polished mahogany table, the same one where my grandfather once placed a checkbook in my hands and told me, "Responsibility is heavier than pride, Rowena, but it'll carry you farther." Jared arrived, stiff and twitchy. Callista followed, the picture of practiced poise. But Uncle Gene wasn't smiling. He slid a sealed document across the table, an amendment to the trust, notarized and filed. Jared opened it, and color vanished from his face. Mr. Halverson read, "It allowed. In any instance of proven fraud involving shared property where Rowena Day has invested over 50%, sole ownership shall revert to her." I didn't flinch. "That includes the house," I said clearly, "and the car, and any profits from their illegal sale." The silence was jagged. Callista hissed, "This is forged." Uncle John met her stare. "I notarized it myself. You're welcome to challenge it in court, though I wouldn't." Jared looked ready to implode. I placed my phone on the table and hit play. His voice spilled out, casual, cold. "We'll just gaslight her until she gives up." He lunged. "You recorded me?" I stared him down. "No, you recorded yourself. You never unsynced your new phone from my iCloud." The room imploded. The legal assistant leaned in. "We'll need a copy of that, Ms. Day." "Already sent." I reached into my purse and placed an old brass key, engraved with my initials, on the table and turned it toward Jared. "Return everything." He didn't move. Callista's chair screeched as she stood. "This isn't over." I didn't blink. "It was over the day you smiled in my face and stole behind my back." The lawyer raised a hand. "There will be civil proceedings." Outside, news vans had begun to gather. But for once, I didn't shrink. I walked into the daylight with a calm, measured smile. 1 month later, the sunlight streamed through the tall windows of my new studio, warming the ink-stained concrete. Floors, no shouts, no lies being rehearsed in the next room. Just silence and space, my own. The first thing I printed hung above my workbench in copperplate script. "Sometimes the ones who call you family are the ones who fear your power most." Not my words, my grandmother's, paraphrased from a note I found curled in an old journal. She once whispered, "Keep your name clean, Rowena. One day it'll carry more than you think." She was right. The fallout came fast. Jared was disbarred. His firm collapsed. Callista's brokerage license was revoked. Her name smeared across the news. Her fake pregnancy reveal paired with Jared's confession in a viral clip. I didn't have to post a thing. The truth did the work. My neighbors knew now. Colleagues reached out. And for the first time, I didn't explain. I just let the silence speak. I never went back to that house. I passed it once. Windows down. I didn't stop. It looked like a lie with a fresh coat of paint. My new life, my studio, was quiet. Steady, mine. I rented it from a retired bookbinder who respected silence. I filled it with presses, type blocks, handmade paper, and on Saturdays, I taught a group of high school girls how to make books and find their voices. One, Maya, watched me press a plate and asked, "You're not afraid of anything, are you?" I looked her in the eye. "I used to be, of losing people who never stood beside me." She nodded. She understood. Now I feared betrayal more than solitude. I knew family wasn't always blood. Sometimes it's built, carefully, after the fire. One day there was a knock. I opened the door. Maya, my youngest cousin, stood there, older now, her eyes red but her stance steady. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a key. "You gave this to me when I was 16, she whispered. "When you're ready to leave what breaks you, come find me." I didn't remember saying that, but maybe I had. I took the key. She didn't leave. She stayed. We began again. They thought they'd erase me, strip away titles, photos, love, but all they did was clear my path. And now it's mine. Have you ever been betrayed by the people who swore they loved you like family? What helped you walk through the fire with your name still intact? Tell me below. I read every single one. Because sometimes the real comeback isn't loud, it's just real.